Okay. Little red lights on, swirly, swirly. Those 3 or 4 seconds where we're live, but it doesn't look like we're live. It's great. Oh,
Well, good morning.
good morning, Shawn.
And good morning, Facebook. Everyone tuning in now and tuning in later.
And I'm gonna do that thing where I do tech before I actually completely pay attention because it's a real thing.
No worries.
The whole 21 seconds we've been live.
Hey, we gotta do what we gotta do. I mean, we constantly,
We are our own production team,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like there's no staff, there's no support, there's no producers. We fill all roles, so that's a thing. And today's important. Um, I mean, all of
yeah,
our conversations are important. There's no question about that. But I just, whew, I'm feeling some kind of way with this one, right? But before we get there, right? Before we get to that part in the show, now that I am sure that everything on the
oh,
tech side is
we got a show now. I thought this was just a conversation that we have with the people. All right, we got a show. Just all right,
did
cool.
something like that. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Let's kind of get
Let's
to it.
check
All
in.
right, let's check
How you doing? How was your weekend with the lively Monday that we have today?
it. I mean, my weekend went okay. I worked on a speech that I gotta deliver tonight
Yes.
for Russell Sage College.
Russell Sage College,
That
Just Mercy.
Yep. It's a discussion with Just Mercy, talking to a bunch of students in the community.
I'll be on.
And that's gonna be. I think it's gonna be an amazing conversation. I really look forward to it. There's a lot to take away from that movie and what it depicted.
Yeah.
The movie is Just Mercy. The book is Just Mercy. The book was written by Brian Stevenson. It's about the exoneration of Walter McMillan, and it's a really interesting story that that is about exoneration, but about so much more than that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's to be a really interesting conversation, and I look forward to speaking with everyone that joins the call tonight at 6.
So you're ready. Like
I'm ready.
your weekend was about work and prepping for today.
I don't know if we got any weekends that ain't about work. I mean, it seemed like this is really similar to every weekend we've had, since the world caught on fire, and we've been out here in these streets.
I mean, before the world caught on fire.
I mean,
technically,
yeah.
We were working.
Because I was volunteering even more when I was working. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Yeah. Well, so I and good morning, Lex. Good morning, Lewis. Um, this weekend I actually got to spend a couple minutes with my kids, which for those that don't know, I don't get to spend a lot of time with them. Like that's just that's a fact.
Yeah.
I work all the time. I do this work because of them, because they deserve a better world, and I don't want them to face the harm and hardships that so many of us face every single day. And um, I don't get to spend a lot of time with them, and it's a real struggle to to do the work because we care, but know the sacrifice that we make um, to be able to do this work. And it was nice, It wasn't any big, didn't spend a whole bunch of money or go crazy, but just got to spend a little time with them and be face to face and be able to be silly with them, and it was nice. But it's the constant reminder of the sacrifices we all make, right?
Yeah.
But also the illusion that some folks have of, because like I've heard people say, "Oh my gosh, Jamaica, you do everything. You're a mom, and you do." And yes, I am a mom. Like, still a mom every day. But no, I don't get to. It's not like I'm making dinner every single night, and I'm not Susie homemaker, and then also 40 hours a week. And it's a real struggle. And I think that folks need to realize that this is the life. I'm happy for it. I'm grateful for it. I'm here for it. And yeah,
It's a struggle though. It's a struggle, and we constantly have to balance the work
yeah,
with our families.
yeah.
And that's something that we.
There's a real balance coming today. Yeah. I don't know how to do it. So it's another fine Monday morning with Roman. Look, you're doing it. Good job.
As we just were speaking about the family context,
Yeah.
associated, how we balance that with the work.
Yep.
As you see this morning, we're
Yep.
trying to balance that well.
And it's real fun because we're going to get into the local news
Yeah.
and how some elected officials
Yeah.
want to act as if, one, individuals' humanity can simply be erased and taken from them, and two, they have no real sense of what it means to be a parent or a worker or just someone trying to exist in this economy, in this world during COVID. And they got some real smart stuff to come out of their mouths. It's kind of ridiculous. But yeah.
Well, before
Yeah.
I get into that, I put a post up, and as all y'all know, I don't usually post too much on Facebook or social media, but I saw a post from a brother of mine named Stephen DeGrone. Special good shout out to Stephen. And he was talking about the cost of living in Albany, and he was talking about like the average salary is like $25,000 or something like that, but the rents are $12.99, like that's the market value for the rent. And I saw that, and I related to it because that's the same thing that's happening right here in the Capital District. I mean, right here in Schenectady and throughout the Capital District, where you have the rents being so damn high, yet the economic kind of opportunity, what people are actually making, doesn't match, right? So I'm like, so the post was like, why is the rent so damn high? Question mark. Why? How are they getting away with putting the rent so high in these communities? Schenectady got a 70% poverty rate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's impossible.
And let's talk about, so there's lots of things. And part of that is the news from over the last weekend that happened here in Schenectady and the housing crisis and all that we're going through. But let's talk about the poverty rate.
Yeah.
Because for those that don't know, the federal government sets a standard for what poverty means. And by federal guidelines, a single individual is not in poverty if they are making more than $12,140.
Single person.
If you by yourself make $12,140 based on federal guidelines, you are not living in poverty. So what do you think that means for a family of four? I'm just going to tell you. For a family of four, if you make more than $25,100, the federal government says that you are not living in poverty. A family of four. So the United Way, and I've talked about this before. Good morning to everybody that's joining us right now. The United Way creates the Alice Report that talks about the actual survival cost to live, the actual cost of living, right? Which is not $25,000 for a family of four, of one, right? Because look, see this kid? Yeah, no, he wants help, and he's not trying to hear it. But understand that it costs a lot more than that. I know you spilled it. This is what this morning live is going to be like, because this is what like real life is, right? In a pandemic where the daycare is closed, not even because of the pandemic, and everyone's learning from home. But yeah, you can have that.
I mean, while you deal with him for a second, I just want to say, so the first thing that's striking about that guideline is that it's universal for the entire state. I mean, for the entire country, right? So each state, no matter what the cost of living is, that's the poverty level. And that poverty level line, that federal guideline, I mean, it's arbitrary, one, because it doesn't represent every single cost of living index throughout the country, and two, that line is a line that has to be, you have to meet just to get certain services, right?
Well,
I mean, because you can fall between that place of I make too much, but I don't make enough. I make too much to get the services, but I don't make enough to take care of myself.
That is true, and it does differ state by state. So New York State Department of Social Services has guidelines that is based on the federal poverty levels, but it says, like, if you make 130% or less, right? So it still, states do have the ability to make the number higher. It's still never high enough.
But my point is that the federal government has left this number to represent the entire country, not taking in consideration the different costs of living, and then allowing the states to do like you just said. Say if you make this percentage of the federal poverty guideline, then we can help you.
Yeah, then we can help you, which still isn't enough. And so just to look real quick, so this is real fun. I'm going to look at a different screen, and we're going to remember that the camera's looking at us. So for Schenectady County as a whole, survival cost for a single adult would be $815 for housing alone. For 2 adults, survival would be $974 for housing alone. If it's 2 adults with 2 school-age children, housing cost, survival, $1,200. But understand, that is also based on a whole lot of other numbers of what the annual salary should be. Right? So the household should be making $67,000 if the cost of housing is $1,200. I hope y'all heard everything I just said. So somebody in the chat say whether or not you heard me, because I clicked off the screen. No, Mimi's not gonna pope you.
No, her dad pooped me.
Yes,
oh, okay.
Because he keeps trying to poke me.
Oh, okay. So come here. So we're gonna sit with Roman. If you make $67,000 a year, and you're a 2 adult, 2 child household, then you can expect that Roman is doing bad things. You can expect that your housing cost should be $1,200. How many people are making $67,000 a year and your housing cost for 2 adults and 2 children is $1,200? Right, it's not. So understand that in the city of Schenectady, we are looking at 3-bedroom apartments that are charging $1,100 or more. In the city of Schenectady, that has an actual poverty rate of close to 70%. That includes that ALICE number, that United Way ALICE number that takes into account the actual survival cost for being able to survive. But here in the city of Schenectady, we have a mayor who actually is shaming a candidate who's going through financial crisis during a pandemic. That Mayor Gary McCarthy is quoted. Let's see, what did he say? It was something ridiculous that this guy thought that it was, necessary to talk about a candidate that's going through all types of struggle and strife during a pandemic, and has the same issues that many of us have, that we're struggling at this moment. I think it's a big hurdle for people who can't manage their own affairs to manage over a $100 million operation in the city of Schenectady. So Mayor Gary McCarthy is shaming a woman, a single mother, who wasn't able to maintain her mortgage payments while going through a divorce, based on the information in the article, and equates that to managing funds that you didn't have a part in creating. So the mayor is tasked with how to manage the funds for the city that will best suit the city and all of its residents. Not to say that you, Gary McCarthy, went and worked a job that made $100 million, because if you went and worked a job that made $100 million, you'd be able to afford your mortgage payment, right? Gary McCarthy, when was it that you last were without a job after working in the DA's office for how many years, putting people in cages? And then working as the mayor and in the DA's office, collecting 2 paychecks, and got a raise of like 19% a couple years ago, right? Didn't you get a ridiculous raise for being mayor? So what do you know about struggle? How can you actually relate to what are the needs of a community? Because that's what we need. We need representatives that actually can show up and understand what are the programs, services, and supports that are going to allow the residents to thrive and not continue to struggle to survive. How is it that we can prioritize the people and not profits? How is it that we can end the harms of bias and white supremacy and all of the oppressive systems that make it that you cannot sustain your life, that you have to struggle to be able to hopefully be able to purchase a home because there are so many roadblocks in your way to home ownership, that what it means to be able to have a credit score that allows you to be qualifying for a home loan. Even if you have a job that pays you $60,000 a year, you still could be denied a home loan. And then during a pandemic, what so many people have gone through, including property owners and homeowners, that this mayor felt as if it was appropriate to be dismissive of this candidate's experience and equate it to, oh, you didn't manage your funds well enough. The mayor of Schenectady said, in a city that has seen an increase in poverty during his tenure, yeah, we do need new leadership, and we need leadership that comes from individuals that understand and have experienced the trauma and the poverty that we face, so that we can actually create change that will help undo the man-made systems of poverty, because poverty is man-made. But the mayor of Schenectady decided, I'm going to shame this woman going through a divorce, a single mom who couldn't make their mortgage payments, and equate that to all of his privilege and lack of understanding and experience in the city of Schenectady.
I mean, it sounds like more of the same. It sounds like these type of comments, could have been made 20 years ago, 40 years ago, right? The lack of empathy and awareness of, I think, the circumstances that Teresa's going through, and many people, not just Teresa, many people are going through in our community, especially in this economic downturn caused part and parcel by the global pandemic. Yeah. Right? I appreciate you taking on the mantle. I just want to let you know.
Are they all okay?
No, they're not.
Okay.
I did call Amazon, and they'll be picking them up.
Jeff Bezos now takes children.
They'll be picking them up in about a half an hour. So just so you know, we won't be seeing Roman.
but Malia gets to stay.
That depends.
Well, thank you.
Right.
For because teamwork is the dream work.
Teamwork is the dream work. That's a fact.
But so I had went through.
Yeah.
You heard everything.
A little.
And that's not the only side of things.
Mm-hmm.
What is happening with property owners during this crisis is atrocious and harmful and discriminatory. There are multiple instances of screw it. I'm
Yeah,
just
about
gonna,
to say, say what
yeah,
it
I'm
is.
just gonna say. So, I have the contact information for property owners who have been specifically discriminatory against single mothers. Said, and I quote, "I'm not going to rent to a single mom. We want a husband and wife that has two incomes to live here." So you're being biased against single mothers. You're being heteronormative because you're assuming that two people have to be husband and wife were the exact words. There's that. So that's happening in the city of Schenectady. These are property owners.
Right now.
Right now. We're talking last week, city of Schenectady. As well as another property owner said, "Do you have Section 8 to an individual?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And when the answer was no, that property owner said, "I am only renting to Section 8 because there are no courts right now. I need only Section 8. I will only take Section 8. I'm not renting to anyone else." And the individual was willing to give upfront, like additional months to say, "Hey, I'll give you 4 months so that you can have that sense of security, so that you know that you're going to get paid. I'll show you documentation." And they said, "No, I'm only taking Section 8. Dylan, if it's actually illegal, please show us how, because it's one of the things that we're questioning. A third property owner, these are different people that own properties in the city of Schenectady, said they had wanted to see proof of tax returns for multiple years, as well as proof of current employment, right? Yeah. Okay, all right, cool. When that was provided, that next phone call said, "Oh no, this isn't gonna work.
We need more.
I need more because this could be fake. You might have made this up." And so when the response was, "Why would I do that? Who does that?" the property owner said, "I have seen it happen. I've even done it myself." Property owners in the city of Schenectady, they're taking advantage of residents that are raising the prices, that are literally $1,100 on Hamilton Hill. One property owner actually said, "My taxes have gone up every year for the last 5 years," which I happen to know is a lie. Is a lie, because I've done education advocacy for more than 5 years, and every time we've had a tax, an increase in funding, there's been a decrease to the tax levy, which has an offset to cost for property owners. But nice try, buddy, said to me, 5 years. And when I said to them, "No, that's not true," they said, "Well, I own 3 different properties on this street," acknowledging that they are intentionally raising the prices on property
in the poorest community.
In the poorest community, 12307 is where this person owns 3 properties. He didn't know who he was talking to that day. And all of these other property owners that are talking to people across the city and saying, not giving to single parents, needs to be husband and wife, only accepting Section 8. What is the city doing to protect the residents of the city of Schenectady, other than allowing for gentrification
and selling lots of property to huge corporations, and this idea of affordable housing, right? Y'all can go live there, for a while, and then not ensuring that there's actually economic opportunity in the community by ensuring that folks in the community got jobs on those work sites. They sold millions and millions of dollars worth of land to community builders, right? To community builders to build affordable housing, not just in Schenectady, but throughout the capital region. This has happened. And there wasn't any economic opportunity for the folks that actually live in the community. They built affordable housing, which removed an opportunity for someone in the community, from the community, to buy that property and to create their own type of wealth in the community, right? And has left all that property. So we got property owners, and you got corporate property owners, right? The average property owner, or the property owners that we largely see now, are shooting the rents high as hell, and it's basically squeezing people out of the market. It's insane. It's insane.
Again,
It's creating its own crisis.
And it's happening across the city of Schenectady. I mentioned that one property owner who I spoke directly to owns 3 properties in 12307, or at least on one street in 12307. Like, acknowledge that they had 3 properties on one street in 12307. But this is also happening in 12303, 12304. What was the other one? I don't remember where the other one was, but this isn't like isolated. Mm-hmm. And it is the most marginalized and impoverished communities.
Yep.
Mount Pleasant. This is happening in Mount Pleasant. Hamilton Hill. Just everywhere. So
Hamilton Hill, Vale, Yates Village Quarter.
What is the city doing? And how can we expect that the city's leadership is going to do anything when the mayor is leading the charge and calling out poverty as a you should have done better? How dare you be in poverty? That somehow disqualifies you from being able to have knowledge, skill, talent, understand. What? This is what's happening in your city, Mayor McCarthy.
So thanks, Dylan, for putting that in the chat, and I'll look up the statute myself. But Dylan writes in the chat that it's illegal to discriminate in the sale or rental of housing, including against individuals seeking a mortgage or housing assistance, or in any other housing-related activities. The Fair Housing Act prohibits this discrimination because of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability.
Familial status, single mothers.
Yeah,
it's
a significant problem. It's one that's been, I think, flying too low under the radar for too long. We already know what housing insecurity looks like.
Yep.
We understand that the pandemic, has caused like this economic crisis for so many of us. And it's important that we have this conversation now and that we do something about it, because it's only getting worse. And we're at a point right now where literally just in doing between like all of last year and now, just, talking to property owners and looking around Schenectady, all of the rents in poorest neighborhoods are $1,000 and better.
Yep, that used to be $820.
And I'm not sure. Stephen had the list up for it was the average salary in Albany was about $25,000. I am sure it's less in Schenectady.
Yeah, it's weird because like there's the city numbers, there's the county numbers, and so being careful, like what is that breakdown and how does it actually show up, which is something that the United Way Alice report does do.
Yeah.
And is like, thank goodness somebody's looking at the numbers, but still people are not hearing about it. They're not getting the opportunity to understand you did not put yourself in poverty. You working 40, 60, 80 hours, working multiple jobs and not able to get out of debt is not because you are lazy. It's not because you don't work hard. It's not because you're not smart. It's not because you don't care about yourself or you don't care about your family. It's because systems and structures were put in place to leave you in poverty, to prevent you, and disproportionately impacts Black and brown folks, and disproportionately impacts LGBTQIA plus people, and disproportionately impacts differently able folks in every different way that they divide us. Immigrant community, disproportionately. And again, we see that privilege of cisgendered, heterosexual, wealthy white men are the ones saying, well, obviously you just can't manage a budget. Mayor McCarthy. It's not just that you're tone deaf. I don't even know if I can sit here and call ignorance when it is so blatant and so harmful to so many people, and that you then will just look for opportunities to say, well, this Black person agrees with me. Or, these small groups of people say that you need to work harder too. No, because it is happening in Albany, in Schenectady, in Troy, where homeowners who have owned their property for decades are being forced out of their homes elderly individuals forced out of their homes because of taxes in Troy. That is man-made. That could be reversed. Those are political decisions.
Yeah.
Who are you prioritizing? Are you prioritizing the people? Are you prioritizing business that actually gives you money to run your campaign?
It's a part of the same narrative that we've seen time and time again. It's not going anywhere. We can have our conversations. We can talk about this with you all, between each other and others, and think that the world is actually listening sometimes. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is that in the positions of power, especially and specifically here in Schenectady, they're tone deaf.
Yeah.
That for these housing crisis and poverty, economic opportunity here, and for instance, the mayor is lead on this task force on the changes that are supposed to come to the police department, right? Along with the chief. Yep. So it's for me, I think like this is why we continue to have these conversations, to continue to show up in the street, to make our voices heard, because that dominant narrative, that normative narrative, that bootstrap kind of mentality, right, is still alive and well. And it's strong as hell. And it ain't going anywhere unless we continue to have these conversations and take action to ensure that our representatives do what the hell they need to do.
Being elected to office doesn't make you a leader. It means you're supposed to be a representative of the people, making decisions that allow all people to be well, to have safety and health.
Yeah.
All individuals, not just some of them, not just business owners, not just the individuals that are living on the border of Niskayuna, not the individuals that agree with you, everyone. And to your point that the mayor is leading and the chief of police are leading here in the city of Schenectady, the task force that was created by the mayor and the chief of police, that still to this day, they are the leading voices in the room. It's not led by marginalized and impacted folks that actually know how to create change. There has been one voice that has attempted to speak up on behalf of all people. That's Marion Porterfield. Councilmember Marion Porterfield is the one elected representative that has attempted to speak up for the people. And one of the areas that she has attempted to lead in is around the Civilian Police Review Board. And it is very much in line with what we've heard over and over again on how the Civilian Police Review Board needs to be independent of the police force. It's very much what we speak about in the 13 demands, about the autonomy of the Civilian Police Review Board, about the need to have power within the Civilian Police Review Board, and that it is more representative within the Civilian Police Review Board. And so Marion Porterfield has put forward, and this is not new. It's been months. I definitely want to point that out. It's been months that Marion has been attempting, even though her colleagues on the city council continue to push back against this Black woman calling for change and are dismissive of anything she has to say without any basis. It's not as if they are coming forward and saying, okay, well, I have this legitimate concern. What John Paul Minetti had said, and Carmel Patrick, those two were quoted in the Gazette speaking against creating transformative change within the Civilian Police Review Board, which is the one thing that the city council has full ability to do. Councilwoman Carmel Patrick said, I won't agree to the releasing of the officers' names. Now, wasn't there the repeal of 50A?
Yeah.
Right? And Albany, the city of Albany, they get the full jacket. The Civilian Police Review Board in Albany is given the name of the officer and their full disciplinary file, including accusations. That just happens. And the city of Schenectady city council members are again fighting back against the repeal of 50A, which we already won in court. Because there was a court case in the city of Schenectady where the PBA said, no, we can't do this with blah, 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 yada, yada, watermelon cantaloupe bullshit. The court stood on the side of justice and said, repeal of 50A said, here it is. Give it up. The Civilian Police Review Board is actually tasked with reviewing the files. And right now, it has been restricted in completing that duty to the people. And a friend of mine in Albany had said, what are you worried about the release of names for? You put our names all over Facebook and all over the news when we're accused. We're simply saying that the Civilian Police Review Board should have the name and full jacket of the officer, and that the complaints should go directly to the Civilian Police Review Board. I don't know if Marion's proposal includes that part, because right now, all complaints go to the police before it goes to the Civilian Police Review Board.
So let me just, let's talk about it like this. We have the repeal of 50A, and we have this proposal by Marion Porterfield about, making sure that the CPRB here in Schenectady can at least review the officer, who the officer was that was involved, right? Now, which is in line with the repeal of 50A. Now, I want to remind people that the repeal of 50A didn't just happen because someone thought it was a good idea, right? It happened because elected officials, right, in our state government realized, right, that murder after murder after murder, misconduct allegation, abuse allegations, violence at the hands of the police on the community has happened so much that it is time for us to at least acknowledge that it's important to track that when we're reviewing these cases, that we have an independent party's ability to, the public, the community's ability to track what's been going on with this officer that has the allegation against them, because it's been flying so low for so long. They've been getting away with it for so long. And now it's time, there's an opportunity for it to stop. Thousands upon thousands of people rallied and marched in the streets, right? That is why the repeal of 50A happened. Marion Porterfield asking or proposing that the Civilian Police Review Board at least get the officer's name while conducting the review is a base minimum of what should be possible now after what we've seen all last year, and I would say what we've seen in the history of this country, period. Right? So we are at a point now where we should at least be able to acknowledge, okay, it's important that we have this information. But yet we still have these, once again, similar to the mayor. Now, somebody said it ain't really tone deaf, they don't care, and you may be right. Or maybe you're both in. I don't know. My point is that it is February 2021. If you're not about change now, you cannot be in any seat of power in this community.
No.
You cannot be there. You need to be somewhere else, because I feel like it's been too long. What are we waiting for? Right? Why are these changes so hard for folks to grasp when they're so important? Empathy is a thing. Systems of reality are a thing. You may not have the very same perspective I have because you haven't gone through the trials and tribulations that I and countless many from communities like mine have gone through. But we haven't been out here screaming our demands for nothing.
No.
And if you're not at the table at this point, and this is a low bar, the Civilian Police Review Board getting the name of an officer who has been alleged to have been a part of some misconduct in the community,
Caused harm.
and you're against it, For
Why?
what reason?
Are they against the release of anyone else's name?
Of course not.
I mean, Carmel Patrick, Councilwoman Carmel Patrick, have you ever stood up and said you do not want the name of individuals who have been accused of causing harm in the community to be released to the media? Do you want to prevent their names being released on social media? Are you protecting residents who have not yet been found guilty of causing harm? Because if you are not calling for that, why are you calling for this? Because Roman wants to watch a gorilla.
And my thing is, in all seriousness, my thing, and I know we've been serious this whole time, but I'm just wondering at what point is enough, right? At what point would that these constant kind of these stalling tactics and positions held by elected officials, at what point are we just like, nah, we're not here for this anymore?
Yeah.
Right? Because and I say this a lot, the changes that we're actually talking about are changes that impact folks' lives. There are changes that can determine in a very real way whether or not someone either next year or the year after is alive or dead based on these changes, right? The policy changes, the shift in perspective, the shift in like this kind of this thinking where we feel like as a community that we need more and more police to keep communities safe, and we need bigger and better prisons in order to house them. Now, this mentality, this thinking has built up an industry that is worth billions at this point.
Billions.
Docs, and I'm not even talking about the industry where you have folks that are incarcerated working in these different factories and prisons, creating all these different wares that earns the state, hundreds of millions of dollars.
For cents.
Right? For cents on the dollar. We're talking about in a very real sense, like Doc's salary, the Doc's budget every year is nearly $4 billion. And that's just New York State. And I mean, it's higher and higher in all these other places. So, I mean, this is a discussion, this is a conversation that I think is connected both through housing and criminal justice. It's connected in a way that still speaks to our elected officials and many in the community still having problems with coming to a place where we can speak truth to what our history is and the context and how we got here.
Yep. And
then taking the necessary steps, though they may be uncomfortable,
right,
to getting the change that will protect lives.
Because you can't imagine that this change is something that's good because it's so different from the white privileged, white supremacy you've been living in.
Yeah.
What I did in the middle of everything else is I copied and pasted into the chat the language that's in our 13 demands, right? Which actually is in line with what Marion Porterfield is proposing. That interactions between law enforcement officers or corrections officers, because remember, it's not just the abuse in our streets, it's also behind the wall. Interaction between law enforcement officers or correctional officers and individuals which results in an injury of any kind should include a report which captures the racial information of all parties involved. An injury is one that is visible as well as expressed by the injured party or any third party and should receive immediate medical assessment and attention prior to any processing for accused legal infractions. All interactions should be reviewed by a civilian review board separate from any internal review and should go directly to the board without requisite review by anyone within the police department. The civilian review board would be presented with the history of the officer, including any previous interactions that resulted in injury or accusations against the officer. The civilian review board should have subpoena power, disciplinary power, and explicit access to submit the interaction to the Attorney General for further review and investigation of the law enforcement or correction officer. Additionally, This would require the creation of a civilian review board specific to the interactions involving correctional officers. Bare minimum. And insult to injury, there was further recommendation that any accusations against officers should allow for more time. They said hi back. Because right now you have to report within 30 days of an incident. The proposal from the current civilian review board was for it to be 6 months. That an accusation against an officer should be allowed up to 6 months after the alleged incident. Yeah. They agreed to 45 days.
Increase of 15 days from the original 30. And a part of the reasoning, as per the chief, was that, hey, many of our video records are erased after 30 days, and therefore anything longer than that could be problematic. Now, instead of saying, hey, we'll increase the time in which it takes for us to get to the point where we're going to erase video to ensure that this video matches with this policy that it can be reviewed.
Right.
He wants to. It's one of those things, like it's called a false dilemma.
Yeah.
Right. They say, hey, we can't do this because we only do this in 30 days, instead of acknowledging the fact that we can change that just as easily as we can change the policy as it concerns the ability to file a complaint and the time frame to do it. Right. Yep. I mean, so listen, I feel like sometimes when I read this stuff and I listen in to some of their conversations and this constant kind of positioning themselves in a place to be obstacles to change, I feel like without our involvement, and I mean us, me and you, and I mean us, the community, without our involvement and being really engaged in what's going on, we are not going to get the changes that we all deserve. It's not going to happen without you all continuing to show up, being a part of these conversations, having these very same conversations back home with the family, with your friends, and ensuring that when you see, for instance, the normative narrative, the dominant narrative, talking about whether or not someone is suffering an economic crisis and that issue with the housing, whether or not the person should be or shouldn't be abused and violated by the police and locked up in a cage, that you speak up and you speak to that and you have the conversation because it's important. Because those who are oftentimes stuck in that thinking haven't been challenged enough to get out of it. And I'm not here to challenge and teach everybody about what the hell they need to do all the time. But at the same time, I'm not willing to discard anyone either. And I understand that we've all been socialized to believe a particular thing and to think in a particular way. And it's important that we challenge ourselves to change, that we challenge ourselves. The work is every day. It isn't sometimes I get to do this live and then that's the work for the day, that's the work for life. This is an everyday thing, constantly, both in the community and upon my own self. I have to think about these things and re-engage with some of these thoughts and these theories that we talk about in order to make sure that I'm effective and be able to talk to y'all about it. And that's all I'm asking, is that we understand that it takes a lot more than just liking this post and saying something in a chat. It takes us getting out and getting involved in all different ways.
Absolutely.
Shoot, James Baldwin, he ain't standing no kind of uprising out in them streets at all that I'm aware of. But he was able to create change from the platform that he had. And you got to find that lane that works for you.
There are lots of different ways to be involved, which is something you'll be talking about tonight at 6
right.
o'clock. Russell Sage, the link is on our page for you to register, to be able to be a part of that conversation, to hear an important message from Shawn, and for us to continue the discourse that is necessary to challenge ourselves and challenge each other. The 13 Demands petition is still online. If you haven't signed it, it's in the comments. Sign it, because it is something that needs to happen in all localities. And it's not the only thing that needs to happen in all localities, because there are other policy changes that need to happen as well. Bare minimum, folks. And then remember that there are different ways, like we always say, to be involved, to whether it's making phone calls, which we'll be doing on the 25th. So if you're interested, you can reach out and be a part of helping with phone banks. If it's tagging representatives on social media and saying, you represent me, here's what I want you to do. Be real intentional and direct with them so that there's no him-hawing or questions about it.
And find others in your community
Yeah.
that feel the same way.
Bring them in.
Link together.
Yep.
Like y'all, if y'all in the same neighborhood and y'all have a conversation, then hey, y'all can have that same conversation with your representative.
Yep.
Give your representative a call, and you let them know how you feel about what's happening in your community and the change that you want to see there. That's important.
And then the last part, which is not, without understanding of the capitalism we live in, we are still in the middle of our first annual fundraiser.
Yeah.
Where we're asking for a $15 donation from 2,000 people, actually 2,021 people, to each donate $15 to help us to continue to do the work that we do every single day, to be able to offer the free programs and services. We had the conversation about Baldwin. We had a conversation about Fred Hampton. We now are coming up on Ida B. Wells and Loretta Ross. We're able to do this with donations and with financial support, to be able to get out into the community as often as we do and to lift up voices. And so we are asking for support because it's needed. If you haven't seen it, the fundraiser is on our page. Share the link, tag people, and tell them, I donated $15. I'm asking you to donate $15 too. It can be a one-time donation, or it is set up that you can make a reoccurring donation to be able to support the work here in the Capital District so that we can continue to do this work and lift up the voices of those that are often left behind. And we need to get better representatives.
Yeah. And we need to make sure we get involved no matter who's our representative.
Yeah, yeah.
Because no matter who we put in there, we got to make sure that we stay engaged, stay active to ensure that we know what's going on in our community.
Yeah.
It's important. All right. So that's our time. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for being here. This was a conversation that's needed. The housing situation in our communities are getting worse.
They are.
And we're gonna keep an eye on this, and we're gonna keep having these conversations, and we'll let you know what's going on. And yeah, it's
the task force ain't over.
The task force ain't over.
And it won't be over after April 1st either.
No, definitely not. There's
So,
work to be done.
We'll be talking about that next Monday in more detail for sure, about the timeline and what it actually means when a city council approves the recommendations. Because it doesn't mean the law changes. Spoiler alert.
All right, y'all. Thank you. Y'all have a great day. Have a beautiful day.
Laters.